This is the Impressions Exchange Podcast.
Impressions Exchange Podcast.
Where all topics impacting the graphic imaging and printing industry are addressed via in-depth news coverage, analysis, and timely interviews.
Welcome to this episode of the Impressions Exchange Podcast. On this episode, I speak with Nathan Safran, Vice President of Research at NAPCO Research. We talk about a very hot topic right now, artificial intelligence. Last year, some listeners may remember that NAPCO Research released an AI study, and this year, they are releasing a new AI study. We talk about key findings, as well as the differences between the previous version and this year's version, and what to expect. Nathan, thank you so much for joining me today.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me, Ashley.
Of course. I'm very excited to have you because we are talking about a topic that is just everywhere right now, AI. And I just got back from Inkjet Summit last week, and it was a huge topic of discussion. So we had Steve Metcalf speak on stage, and it got a lot of the audience members thinking. And when I spoke to quite a few of them, they said that AI right now is of such interest to them because they want to know how they can apply it to their business. So I wanted to talk to you about the AI research study that you're working on. I know we released one last year. You're releasing an updated one later this year. So can you maybe talk about the differences between last year's AI study versus this year and what you're looking at and, what to expect?
Sure. Yeah. So as you mentioned, Ashley, we released the study last year, and this was our inaugural AI study. And one of the, what we wanted to try to accomplish with it was to understand how are print service providers adopting it? How are they using it? What are they thinking about it? What challenges have they met? A sort of like a finger in the air, like let's set a benchmark for where we are, so to speak. And we also layered in some case studies, so we talked to people that were using AI in the print space across the variety of segments that we serve, and heard about unique use cases and did some profiling of them. So that was our initial foray into AI. Since then, as I know you've heard, at conferences and in talking to people and all that stuff, we've heard from folks that, they're sort of saying, okay, you've sold us on the idea of implementing AI, right? We don't need any more convincing. We understand it's important. From our own side, we're hearing about it, we're learning about it. But what we need help with now is how to get started, right? I think a lot of folks are overwhelmed. There's so many different, it's like a different language even, right? To try to understand the vernacular, right?
Yep.
There's so many different places to start, within the organization, whether it's marketing or whether it's sales or whether it's production. There's a million different tools that are out there and applications. So there's just a lot of a feeling of being overwhelmed, but at the same time, knowing, in my career, this is like the most significant technological change to happen. And so overwhelmed, but I know I got to do something, hearing things like I'll be left behind, hearing things like there's so much productivity gains to be had. And so what we're focusing on for this study is trying to answer that call and making it very tactical, and looking at things like, and helping folks to understand, here's some places to start. Here's what to implement. Here are applications that your colleagues are using with success, right? Here's tactical advice on what folks are doing and how they're organizing their organization. And so case studies, tactical tools, we're planning to release things above and beyond the traditional report that you might see. So things like an AI getting started checklist and things like here's, use cases and here's applications you should look at. So really trying to be tactically focused.
Great. It's fascinating. Could you maybe talk about some of the high level takeaways that you're seeing so far? Some of the things that the responses that you're getting already?
Yeah, sure. I mean, what we're seeing is, we're tracing the progression since the last time we did this study until now. And AI, in addition to being such a substantial change as far as technology goes and the far-reaching implications it has, it's a technology that's adopted at a rate faster than anything I've ever seen in my career. In other words, You usually see this curve, right? The leaders, and then slowly things happen. And here you're just seeing this crazy curve where um, folks are just diving in and using it. And I think the areas that we see it getting utilized the most is, of course, around marketing and content. Um, is a key area where folks are utilizing it for drafting their content and outreach and the like. And then another up and coming area, and this is something I'm looking to win for my own business as heading the research division here, is analysis of data to identify trends and opportunities and gaps. So those are some of the things. And then things that are maybe a little farther along are things like customer service and hiring. Um, but I think, part of what we see that separates the haves and have-nots, and again, I'm seeing this with my own experiences, is it's kind of a jump in and like work with it and play with it type of thing and start to get comfortable with it. And it's really a process of, with the traditional AI engines, it's a process of having an iterative conversation. Okay, this is the thing that I'm looking for. And it gives you something back and it's maybe 20% of the way there. And you say, okay,
Right.
make these adjustments for me. Right. So you're having this iterative conversation. It's kind of eerie because it's a conversation, right? With
Hmm.
not a person, not like we're having now. Um, but it's this iterative thing. And so what I see from the haves and have-nots is those that sort of get that and overcome some of the initial fears of diving into a technology, and as is true of human nature, getting started with something that we're not comfortable yet with, right? So it's those that get over that. And you start maybe with a chat GPT and an iterative conversation around marketing content, and then you advance to other tools and you say, okay, I had some success here. I get it. Let me try other things. Because the whole idea of AI, one of the reasons it's transformative is because if you're supposed to be able to speak in plain language, whether it's chat GPT or other tools. So that's one of the reasons it's so transformative because it lowers the bar as far as getting started with these things. So that's really a key takeaway. And any advice I give to your listeners, Ashley, is like, don't be afraid to try, work with things that are, low risk. Like I wouldn't dump your financials into it and say,
Right. No,
okay, build
no.
me a business plan,
Hmm.
tell me what press to buy. But I would certainly, right, just start and it's like anything else. You gain confidence and you get better and better.
Yeah. So have you noticed talking about touching on that, the kind of hesitation of where to start or hesitation of, is AI safe or is it, maybe people who have some questions about how they should use it or whether they should use it. Have you noticed a change from the first issue of this to now of or a market change of the hesitation? Like, do they seem more willing to, use AI to their advantage?
Yeah, great question. I think there is still some hesitation, but I think a number of things have happened or are happening, I should say. And this is applicable as an analyst across my career, following various different technologies, at one point, consumer technology, right? Like what happens is there's this new technology that gets out there and people have all these questions and fears and concerns, right? And then over time, a variety of things happen. One is the influence of, the media and what we're seeing as you see the topic being talked about more and more, it like legitimizes it in the mind of folks. Two is, you go to a conference and you hear different sessions and how people are using it, or you talk to your colleagues or you're networking and you hear about what they're doing. And so gradually some of those fears start to dissipate as well as the advancing of the technology. So like, for example, I'll use my own group. So we have a chat GPT. I think they call it maybe an enterprise or team account. I'm not remembering. Um, but by paying for that account, and I have 6 team members on it, one of the things that it tells you is that nothing that you upload will be used to train the AI model,
Hmm.
right? As opposed to a free account.
Hmm.
So that gives me a measure of confidence, and in conjunction with the IT team that blessed are using it, to know like anything I upload is not going to be out there in the public domain. So like that's one thing that I would point out to folks is if you're paying for an account, at least as far as ChatGPT goes, you can have that confidence. And then the final factor, Ashley, I think is just like I keep saying, that the utility and the value that you can get out of using these tools is pushing people to get out of their comfort zone. And I would encourage people, in our organization, as we have an IT team that's very plugged into AI, and there's certain tools they'll let us use, and there's certain tools that they won't because they don't feel that they have the sufficient safeguards necessarily in place. So there is a, like I said earlier, use it and try it, but with a measure of caution of understanding how is your data going to be used, what are they doing with it. And I think that these organizations that have these AI tools, they're understanding that these are concerns, right, of folks, and they understand they have to first of all put the roadblocks in place to ensure your data is safe and et cetera, and second, communicate it effectively and sufficiently, right? Because if not, people are going to be hesitant to be uploading their financials, or in my case, I'm writing SOWs and other things that are proprietary to a customer, and I have to protect my customer. So I need to know that we have that. But I think you're going to see things continue to rapidly evolve on that front and improve on that front in the quality of the product, but also to your point, the assurance that the proper guardrails and such are in place.
Right, right. Yeah, thank you for that perspective. So I will link to last year's report in the description for anybody who is interested in downloading that. But when is this report going to be available?
We're right in the thick of it right now.
Okay.
So we're collecting survey responses. Some of your listeners may have received a recent, survey link. So if you have some time, it would be super helpful for us rather, and for informing the industry if you were able to take that survey. But we're aiming at the June, July timeframe.
Okay.
We're going to make a bunch of noise about it, of course, including, some what's trending now videos that we do and articles. And you started out actually talking about how significant this topic is. So last year we did a webinar on the report that we did, and I think it was the most attended webinar in NAPCO history, as far as
I believe it. Yeah.
people attending. Yeah, so we'll hopefully do another webinar at the Printing United Expo in October. I'm sure we'll talk about it there as well. And if you don't mind me mentioning, if there are any OEM vendors that are listening and have an interest in participating in a sponsorship and attaching their brand to the research, you're welcome to reach out to me, research@napco.com. And if there are any print service providers out there that are doing interesting things and you'd be interested in having a conversation with us, we would love to talk to you about what you're doing. And certainly we can ensure that proprietary stuff for things that you don't want shared are out there. But just as a lifting the industry in general, again, research@napco.com. But yeah, so that's the plan.
Great. And is it open to any print service provider to participate in this research survey?
Yeah, any print service provider is able to participate in the survey. But that reminds me, Ashley, thank you, that the final results, the executive summary of the research, will be available on all NAPCO properties. But if you want access to the full research study, you've got to be a Printing United member.
Okay.
And it'll be available via the Printing United Alliance website. And I would encourage you to, if you're not a member, to join to get access to the research. My entire team is working on this, and we've thought it through, and we've heard what folks have asked for as far as the tactical side of things, and I'm pretty comfortable saying that we'll be able to deliver on that.
Awesome, great. Well, I will include links to everything we talked about, including your contact information. I also want to plug end of May in Vegas is the Imagine AI Live conference, and there's a Printing United Alliance is helping put together a printing specific track. It's a 4-hour long track during the event, which is going to be, I'm sure invaluable to people who are interested in getting more involved. And
Ash, can I interrupt for 1 second and just add something to that? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I'm actually going to be at that event, and I'm going to be presenting preliminary findings from this study that we just talked about at that event.
Okay.
So, and I'm looking forward as well, above and beyond the print section. There's, a couple of days of workshops and stuff, and I'm really looking forward to attending those. And it's a great opportunity for people to really learn and advance their knowledge in AI. So yeah, thanks for mentioning that.
Perfect. All right. Well, listeners, if you go to that event, you will get to see Nathan live and in action talking about the report. So thank you so much, Nathan. I really appreciate it. This is just fascinating, and appreciate you staying on top of one of the biggest topics right now.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
I want to thank Nathan for joining me on today's podcast. And of course, I want to thank all of you, our listeners. I will include links to the items we discussed today, as well as Nathan's personal information, so you can reach out to him if you're interested in learning more about AI. Thank you so much, and stay tuned for the next episode of the Impressions Exchange podcast.